You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane, from Waters Garden Center, here at the studios at the Garden Center, broadcasting live, talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona, just what's going on in the November landscape just before Thanksgiving. That's this. We're in this transition zone, so a lot of the trees have actually stopped. They're done. They've turned into their flaming reds and their oranges and their purples, and they drop their leaves and they're done. They're going to be dormant until next into February, March is when things start to wake up again. So they take a little break, and they need to take that break or they get leaf diseases. Things happen. The hail had beat up some leaves. They need to shed those and they can form fresh ones. They had mildew on them or shot hole or some sort of disease. They need to shed those so that they can form new ones. So there's this revitalization or renewal or rejuvenation in the nature, in the natural landscape. That's what a four-season climate is all about. There's still some trees coming up. Right now you're seeing your fruit trees, the apples and pears. My peach is pretty much done. It's finished. Cherries still have a few leaves. Apples and pears, though, are really, persimmons look really good. They're really flaming oranges to reds to purple hues. Those are your fruit trees. In addition, they actually form fruit. In addition, the ornamental fruit trees. So there's a whole series of mountain plants, mountain trees, that are fruit trees, but they bloom so early, or they've been genetically modified to shed their fruit or miniaturize their fruit. So you're seeing they kind of cycle or come into color the same time. So many of your crab apples or your ornamental pears, that's Bradford pear, Cleveland pear, Chanticleers, aristocrats. There's a whole series of ornamental pears. You get the pretty white flower. You get the great glossy green foliage, dense shade. But then you get this beautiful red, intense red color in the fall. Now, they'll hold that red and through Thanksgiving. Or your fruit trees will just be in color. Then usually, the first part of December sometime, they'll kind of shed. And then the entire landscape is devoid of foliage, deciduous type of foliage. Then your evergreens really come into play. This is when you really want to take notice. See where your weaknesses are. Did you commit too much to spring blooming lilacs and forsythias, or too much to crepe myrtles and rose of Sharons, and they've all shed their leaves, and now there wasn't enough evergreen to kind of anchor that landscape in. This is when you really want to start spotting. You want to plant some evergreens out in that yard. It could be something big like a spruce tree. We've had, I don't know how many. We've sold over 270 plantings. We've planted 270 things in the last month. So the crews have been crazy busy. So the trucks are rolling in every direction all the time. They show up at dawn, they come back after dark, and they bring all the gross soil that they've been digging in all day. Boulders come back. They bring back huge roots. They've got saws on the truck, jackhammers. They're bringing back all the junk and planting all these beautiful specimens. A lot of, though, I don't think that enough of the evergreen shrubs gets in place. So I thought I would focus in on just the shrubs, not the big spruce or the firs or the pine trees, the junipers. I mean, the shrubbery. Things from small to medium to large. I broke it up into kind of three different heights that we have. These are evergreens that love growing at high altitude. They'll take our winter climate, hold their foliage. Some of them aren't green all the time. Some of them are blue all the time. Some are gold all the time. Some actually are green, and then they'll fade and become more red. So I thought I would describe some of those, and they're easy to add evergreen shrubs into a container, a raised bed right by the driveway. They're real flexible depending on the size. So the most famous of all of the evergreens here in the mountains of Arizona, I think it's a little overdone sometimes, but it adapts well. red-tipped Photinia. This is a nice green shrub up to about 10, 12 feet tall by 12 feet wide. It can be planted in the wrong place. It can be too large sometimes for certain spots of the yard, but it's in that large evergreen shrub category, so we'll start with that. New growth is red, then it matures to just this dense green. I don't plant that one in my own yard because it can get some disease, deer eat it, just some things, but it is the most popular, so I got to mention it. Well, I would rather myself, what I plant are red clusterberry Katonah aster, or cotton Easter is how you kind of spell it. This is a big evergreen. Of course, Katonah asters grow wild throughout the mountains of Arizona, certain varieties. So you know that entire family of plants are going to do really well here. Low water use, animals don't eat them. They get white flowers in the spring, red berries in summer and fall. They got a lot going on for them, and a beautiful evergreen. The leaves are about the size of a nickel, only with a pointed edge to it, and lots of them. It's thick; you can't see through it. The red clusterberry likes to grow up to 8 to 10 feet tall and thick. You can't see through it. We use it as a privacy screen often. I like it, especially for folks out in the county areas where they got that wildland interface. You've got all this javelina and deer pressure, rabbits. They don't bother that particular plant. They don't like the taste. So it's a great plant for here and that. It's got a real deep, like almost a purple green foliage to it. Very, very pretty. Another one for the kind of lower elevations, they're used to Nandina or heavenly bamboo. There's a tall heavenly bamboo, domestica, the traditional one that your grandparents grew. It grows up easily, head high and taller. It kind of looks like a bamboo, but it's got a nice lacy leaf. Animals don't eat it. It's a great little plant. And the thing with Nandina, if it's out in the sun areas, it gets this beautiful red tinge on the top of the plant. If it's in more shaded areas, it'll be true green. As this green has a pretty flower in the spring, it's white, red clusters of berries again. It's got a lot going on for it. There's a lot of different. You'll find Nandina is in every section, because every one of these lists, because there's a tall one, domestica. There's a medium-sized one like Gulfstream and Sienna Sunrise, Moyer's Red, and then there's a short one, Harbor Dwarf Nandina. So there's different sizes, and they're all related, all cousins, but they grow in different heights or different patterns or different thicknesses. But that's a good one. One of my personal favorites, there's two here. I love euonymus. Euonymus is you folks in the Midwest know this glossy leafed evergreen, or ever silver, or ever green, or ever gold. There's different colors, but it's all the same family of plants. They variegate the leaf quite often. We often make hedges out of euonymus, but the taller ones, the golden prince, golden euonymus, they're head high, pretty easy. So I put them in that taller category. Then Agnes, or silverberry. Agnes is the Latin name. Agnes, or silverberry is a common name. This one is a native, true native. It's blue in color. The back of the leaf is silver, evergreen, nothing eats it. Once you get it up to size, you can cut it off of all care. It's a native. It's got a native look to it. So it's got this Arizona blue with this silver color. It's kind of, you may not like it if you're from other areas that have lush landscapes. So what we did, we figured out how to add a variegation to the leaf. So now we've got a golden silverberry. Now all of a sudden it looks like a euonymus from a distance, but it has the hardiness of a native. Again, that's one I like to use because I've got cedar fences around my backyard to keep the dogs in. And it's dark colored. It's mocha, like a coffee color. Well, it's to put green up against a dark background, all of a sudden it blends together. But to have a contrasting gold color, it's like magic. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful type of landscape. Shrub and evergreen. Once you get it up to size, you can cut it off of all care. Never water it again. Deer are not going to eat it. Javelina don't care about it. The rabbits think it's detestable. So it's a great plant locally, not only for its hardiness, but because things aren't going to bother it as well. Got a lot more in store for you. I'll go through all the short plants here in a moment. But Lisa Waterslane's waiting to sit in the hot seat here in the studio. I'll be right back with her garden questions right after this.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Coral Queen Kale.
This unusual plant has deeply serrated foliage with deep green outer leaves and a very dark crimson center.
She is definitely the queen of the autumn garden.
This crop has huge feathery leaves that form large heads the size of beach balls.
Very, very pretty, and all for under $10.
Waters Garden Center, the place for people who love very pretty plants. They love to shop. You know how to find us.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and her Ivory Feathers Pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf variety grows only 5 feet, making it easier to care for.
In feathery bloom now with long ivory plumes held tall above the flowing green foliage.
At $39, this perfect pampas grass is ready for fall planting while supplies last.
Only grown here at Waters Garden Center, the place where people who love ivory feathered grasses, they love to shop. You know where to find us.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we're back with Lisa Waterslane in the studio. She comes each week and just goes over the questions. What are your neighbors talking about? You can learn a lot of the garden classes. People just hang out afterwards and ask questions. People are honed in listening. So I wanted to capture that type of segment for the radio show, so you can just learn from other folks' questions. So welcome back to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
So it's been an exciting week. We spent El Paso, Texas. We spent Halloween weekend over there. Mm-hmm. So back this week and got to spend it with our grandkids.
Yes, that was fun.
It was fun. It was a lot of energy. Have you folks remember your first starter home? A little bit smaller, 2-story, cars in every driveway, kind of the intro level. But the great thing is those neighborhoods are filled with kids. And so it's one of those, like Prescott's famous for its Mount Vernon Street, where everyone just goes to walk the streets. They don't live in that neighborhood. They just go trick or treat there. This one was the neighborhoods kids started flowing out the front door and the streets were crawling, the whole neighborhood. It was so exciting.
It was amazing. It's been a long time since I've seen that many kids out, but it was fun. Everybody was having a good time and people were pleasant and kids had fun.
It was fun to see some neighbors totally into it. I mean, they're dressed up. We've got an 8, a 4, and an infant year-olds. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the 4-year-old still gets spooked a little bit. You go, that's too scary. No amount of candy is worth going into that garage or that front door. Right. And the 8-year-old's going, come on, let's go. More those are bigger candy bars. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, they were certainly enjoying it. And they're not even, the thing that kills me about them is they're not big candy eaters.
No, not at all.
So they were trick-or-treating, then they went back to their own house, and kids were still coming by. They were giving away the candy that they
didn't
had.
Want. Yeah. Smart kids. We raise them smart.
They're geniuses.
The genetics are smart there, Mama. Anyway, I'm sure I just offended someone. Anyway.
I'm sure you did. What else is new?
So we've got garden questions on this segment. What's going on? What are people talking about?
You bet. So our first question is from Jack. So this year in October, he put in new lawn, put in grass seed. Everything came up good, looks good. So his question is on watering. He's wondering, how much should he water now? And then as he goes through the winter, what should his watering schedule be for his lawn?
So this is a brand new lawn, though. Right. So still seedling stage. And this really, we've seeded lawns up until Thanksgiving or so. I may have put seed down and then it snowed the next day. And when the snow melted, all the seed was germinated just like that because it insulated that seed, moisture. It was perfect. So the fall planting of grasses, bluegrass, say ryegrass, fescues, those cool season grasses, they prefer fall planting. So that's good. It'll stay green right through winter that way too. Seedlings are more vibrant through winter than let's say an old established crusty thatch-ridden lawn. So how to water. Right now, you're probably, if it's seeded and it's up and it's green, you've had your first mowing. The secret is the first mowing. Once you mow it, then it's hardier. It's fully rooted. It's shading itself. It doesn't dry out as fast. A lot of benefits with that. So let's assume you've mowed it once, which in October, it's been a month. Yeah, you're probably there. I would say water about, this is kind of a guessing game, about once a week should do it. If it's a little thin and wispy and still some germination, maybe 2-3 times a week. It's easy to overdo it though, because the ground is not drying out right now. It's cool in the evening. There's a little bit of frost that will come and help to hydrate some of that grass. So you're not getting that pressure like you would in June or July. So I would say try once a week. The great thing about new lawns, it's a real talkative. So they'll let you know when they get dry. They'll start to lean over a little bit. You can see a different color to them. They'll start talking. Or when you walk on it, you'll see the actual footsteps stay. It doesn't spring back as quickly. So oh, it's a little bit dry. Start watering. I would rather see it go a little bit dry. Don't go crazy. Than to go soggy wet all the time, because you can get some fungal. You can have some issues by overwatering grass too. That'd be the suggestion I have. I would take that through once a week into December until you get your first good snowstorm, which could be any day or it might be next year. You never know in the mountains.
That is true.
So I would say once you get a good snow, and I mean like 2, 3, 4 inches of snow on that lawn, now you can really back it off and crank it back, because the grass is not actively growing at that point.
Right.
It's growing, but not as quickly. So maybe it's every 10 days. You play with it a little bit. Your trees and shrubs are totally different. There, you're watering right now. I've just backed ours off to every 10 days. And as soon as I see it truly get cold or chilled, or I get a major weather event, then I might back it off to every 14 days or so. So I want to water my landscape about twice per month. And if you do that, it keeps them healthy right through winter. If it's brand new plantings, let's say everything went in this year, that's really important. If it's an old established juniper hedge or big deodar cedar or old fruit trees, maybe it's once a month. It's less critical. What I tell folks is water your landscape, trees, shrubs, perennials, water everything twice per month that are established. And if you get a major rainstorm, that'd be 1 inch of rain or 7 inches of snow. So 7 inches of snow equates to about 1 inch of rain. If you get that, then you can back off one of those at least once a month. Water things through March, at least.
Gosh, it would be nice to have 7 inches of snow.
I
don't think we've had that in a long
Well, it's been
time.
a couple of years, yeah. I think it was 2 years ago we had quite a bit of snow. Then last year, hardly any. It was terrible. So anyway.
Okay. Well, Lauren has a established maple tree in her yard. This year, the color just wasn't that great. And she wants to know, is it bad tree health? Is it something she did, the weather, and how to encourage better color for next year?
It's almost always with something like that. And she's got several years. So she's comparing notes from years past to this year, noticing the difference. So usually when you get a change of color, that is, it's more yellow than red, or it's more orange than red, or it's just gold instead of, or it's browned tips. Almost always, that's going to be a pH issue. So the soil chemistry is what we're going to play with. That's going to be using a good acidic type of granular fertilizer. That's important. So we use all-purpose plant food at our place. It's an organic food. It's a cottonseed meal base. It's acidic. We add sulfur. But in addition to that, also add soil sulfur. So the all-purpose food has some, but you need more because it's not correcting it enough. So get another bag of soil sulfur. Add some now. Add some again next spring. That'll be a game changer for next spring's flush leaf growth and next year's fall color. It'll really make a difference. It could be something obscure like irrigation. Mm-hmm. If the tree, you put it in, you put 2 emitters on there, and it's been growing and happy and good, and then depending on the year, it might be we just need to add a few more emitters. It didn't have enough moisture to take on that color. It might be time for an irrigation tune-up. So you need to add and change and correct and make sure your irrigation's running well. If you don't do that this fall, I would definitely recommend, highly encourage a serious tune-up, like you would your car or anything else. Your irrigation needs that next spring. So you're going to turn that irrigation back on in the mountains about April, into March, April, somewhere in there, depending on your elevation. So usually April, the irrigation systems come back on. Do a serious tune-up. That's run the cycle till you can see wet spots showing up, see which ones are clogged, which ones the gophers or javelina ate the heads off, so it's just free-flowing, which elbows broke, just things like that. Another bit of advice on the irrigation, now's the time to buy your potting soil, your mulch, your shredded bark. Put a bag on top of your irrigation valve, folks. This is an easy trick to make sure that valve doesn't freeze, that manifold in the ground. Usually there's a box with a lid on it. Just throw it on top of that, and I've never had a valve freeze, no matter how harsh the winter, no matter what the elevation, as long as I did that.
Good advice.
So with that, we are out of this segment. Good questions. Be right back with more with Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our red wall creeping vine.
It's said good fences make good neighbors, but fences can be downright ugly.
This rich green climber is turning fire engine red through October with blue accent fruit. It's really pretty.
And very fast growing, and when planted at 8-foot intervals, covers a boring fence within a season, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love good neighbors, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken with the plants of the week and our Cheyenne Spirit coneflower.
This new native is an exclusive wildflower sure to delight and inspire.
The flowers change from purples to orange, then fade into a Cheyenne sunset.
Leave some of the seed head so that it spreads throughout the garden. Adds winter beauty that also feeds the birds through winter. And just $17.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love exclusive flowers, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Something to put on your radar right now is parked underneath an elm tree downtown, Prescott. Is at the American Legion, kind of talking to our vets, kind of interacting, kind of doing my thing down there. American Legion's surrounded by a lot of, this is Ernest A. Love, American Legion. There you go. You vets know what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of elm trees around the parking lot. I parked my little car I just washed underneath an elm tree. I'm there for, I don't know, an hour and a half. I come back and there are spots all over the paint. I had to put the wipers on the windshield because there were just spots all over the windshield. It totally destroyed my car washing job. That's tree aphids. This is a very large aphid, and it loves pine trees, elms, aspens, apples. It's on certain things. If you see that, first of all, I'm not going to park under any more trees. I'd rather be out in the parking lot. I'd rather walk in than have to wash my car every time I park underneath the tree. But those are aphids. They're very, very easy to kill. But you got to spot them first. So be aware. They love the fall. They love it when it's really cold at night. They like when there's frost on the ground. That's when aphids really become rampant. This is when now through the end of the year, really, is when they're very bad. They'll love your pine trees, and when you look at the bark, it looks like a black spider crawling up and down the trunk, and they have a piercing mouth part that pokes a hole in the needle or in the trunk. and then sucks the sap out. And so that spotting is the extra sap that it excretes, and then it just makes the rocks underneath the trees look shiny. It makes the leaves on your roses look shiny. It makes the needles look like it just had a rainstorm. You know there wasn't. That's always aphids. I don't have to see the insect. I can spot it just by the damage it does to the plant. And it's serious. You do want to get on this. So what I would do myself, if it's a huge tree, I would actually use plant protector on it, just because you can't get a sprayer up the tree that far. So plant protector is a systemic. You pour it at the base of the tree, and the plant absorbs it, and then it comes up and it taints the sap, so they don't want to eat it anymore. Very effective. One application lasts for a year, so it'll get you going through next spring's flush of aphids. Aphids show up when it's cold at night, not middle of winter. Doesn't like summer. It likes early spring and late fall. This is when aphids show up. It'll just take care of them for the next 2-3 seasons. So plant protectors for big things. The negative with that, it travels about a foot a day. So if you've got a 10-foot tree, it might take it 10 days to get up to that, to infect the entire structure of the plant and get rid of your aphids. If it's a really tall tree, 20-foot tree, it might be 2 weeks before it gets up through the whole structure. So you got to give it some time. It's more of a planning strategy thing than it's the long-term fix, not an instantaneous fix. For shorter things, I use multi-purpose insect spray, or the real goodie right here, there's an organic that obliterates aphids. It's called Triple Action, put out by Fertilome. Really good product and completely organic, safe for your dogs, your pets. I mean, I wouldn't hose down my dog or pet with it, but I'd probably use a mask still. Don't breathe it in, because it is an oil. It's neem oil with some permethrins in it. It's got this concoction that really works. But if you spray an aphid, it will die. And it's got an odor to it that will repel aphids, because they're winged and they'll fly over, and they like to congregate in large groups. And so they'll fly in to come join the party. Well, it has a repelling action to future for about a week to 10 days or so that keeps them at bay. So triple action is what I would use if I could get it through a hose end sprayer. There's a special kind of sprayer that goes on your hose. It uses house pressure. You attach it on here. It's got a dial on top, so I think that one's 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. Then I would just hose it down. With that special nozzle, you can go up probably 20 feet, 25. It's quite impressive how far up you can spray this triple action. But I would spray that down. And what's funny about aphids, they'll actually move to the back side of the bark. So you got to actually hit it from a couple different sides to really knock them back and really get them under control. Because they get wet and they go, that's no good. I'm going to move around. Physically will move on you. So spray it from a couple angles with a hose end sprayer using triple action. Your problems will be gone. It's super easy with a shrub kind of thing. Sometimes they'll get on boxwoods. Sometimes you'll see aphids on roses for sure. There's certain kinds of smaller shrubs that they really like this time of year. I always say your sour cherries, they really like those. So look for that shininess, though. That's your cue. And then hose them down. That's going to keep them under control. But they'll be bad now through the end of the year. You should actually be aware of that so it doesn't catch you off guard or get your car dirty right after you washed it. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, red mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the Plants of the Week and our Regal Petticoat Maple.
If you love maples but want superior leaf color, then this is your shade tree.
Regal maple leaves are glossy green on top with a velvety purple underside.
Through autumn, the petticoat leaves turn gold on top and red on the bottom side. I mean, wow!
This is a great shade tree for just $99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love Regal maples, they love to shop. And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week and just shares her garden advice, that another angle, another perspective. You know, if you've got 10 different gardeners, you're probably going to have about 15 different opinions on which way the garden should truly be done, or what style it should be. And none of them are right or wrong. They're just uniquely personal and different. And I think that's good to get that, not just woman's perspective, but a different gardener's perspective. And you're quite the gardener, especially certain things. You've got the containers, flowers, everything's decorated, looking good. Holidays. Yes. You took our giant pumpkins and you put them into pots because you pulled out, you can just tell, though, you put your personality on that. That's what I want to capture on this segment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love decorating outside. You know, I love the seasonality. I like changing out the colors, and I wish more people did that around here.
I do too. And it's so easy. Just a colored pot,
right.
Front door, back door, a driveway, whatever, and you fill it with potting soil. So it's easy to change out. Things just pull right out and just change your color. I think a lot of folks don't realize our growing season is so long.
Right.
A lot of the Phoenix, Palm Springs, southern tropical climates, they're thinking, oh, it's winter. I can't do anything else. But we're so mild. You can have pansies. They'll bloom right through winter, through a snowstorm.
Definitely.
Bloom right there. So many things you can have. It changes, but if you change it often enough, it can have color year round.
And so easy to do. Like you're saying, I have the pumpkin in there right now. Well, probably another week or so, maybe after Thanksgiving, I'll yank that out. And I'll probably put like a little Alberta spruce or something in there for Christmas. So easy to do. It takes you, 30 minutes max if you're really slow. But it really warms up the neighborhoods, I think. I think it's so nice to drive through a neighborhood and see people taking care of their yard, doing pots, just making an effort to make it nice.
We call that oasis gardening somewhat, especially for you folks in the county, the rougher areas, native. You've got that scrub oak and manzanita and this scrub interface. You can keep it natural, but natural all the way right up to the driveway and to the. Sometimes it's nice to have a plop of color and go, that's oasis.
Right.
That's. I don't garden a lot, but when I do, look at what happens. Isn't it pretty? And so it greets people as they come in to the front door.
Right.
It welcomes you home.
Definitely. And to that end, we should let people know we got a truckload of pots in. So if you've been waiting for new containers, new ceramic containers, now is the time. Selection is wonderful and just some really nice colors. So if you've been thinking about it, now's the time to come look at it.
2019 containers, the styles, they just landed this week. So they're still being unpacked.
Yeah.
But there's one that'll hold 3 bodies out there. It's ginormous. It's as big as a car. It's beautiful.
I was asking Amy, did we order that? Because you forget what you've ordered, but gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But that being said, it also relates to what I wanted to talk about today, which is houseplants.
Okay.
Now, we have taken the inside of our store. If you've not been in lately, you got to come see. We pretty much gutted the inside of the store.
It's an understatement, yeah. We're knocking down walls, all kinds of crazy stuff.
And we made a big investment in houseplants because we're finding, and the science is showing, people need that. They need that green in their home. They need to nurture and touch dirt and all this stuff is just so good for your health and for your brain. And we really want to encourage that and just making your home a home. I mean, get rid of the plastic flowers. It's time.
How dare you mention it over our garden show over the airwaves? Plastic flowers, especially the ones that turn blue like 3 years ago.
Get rid of those guys. They just collect dust, right? They're just big dust collectors. So get some real stuff, some fresh stuff, and bring it into your home. And I think you'll be amazed at the difference it makes. I have really, in the past 2 years, but more this year than ever, focused on getting more houseplants in our house. And I love doing container gardening. That houseplants are a little bit of a trick for me, but I've really enjoyed learning how they grow, when to water, when to trim them up. It's really nice to have that piece of time to do that. People need to get more living green stuff into their houses.
Other than their puppy dogs.
Yeah, they're not green. Dogs are
green. Yeah, that's good.
But to that end, we've brought in, how many hundreds of houseplants do you think we have right now?
It's hundreds, and it's a bunch. I mean, we remodeled the store to focus on two things. There's two weaknesses in the market. One, hanging plants, things that come off the counter, the kitchen counters at the top and kind of hang down, or plant stands that hang down, or just hook them into a bathroom, hook in the ceiling. Hanging baskets. There's probably, we put a whole system in place just for those. Like, it'll hold 100 plants easily, and they all came in this week. And then big floor plants. No one's doing large specimen. You get this beautiful new glorious home that's big. You can't put a small plant in that. It needs to be size matched. So if you've got 9-foot ceilings, no one's carrying houseplants for those truly with selection. Well, now we've done that. So we're strategically going after that in the marketplace. But houseplants doubled 2 years ago, and now this volume has doubled again. Right. And so I think with this current remodel, I think it'll double or more even again. So it's becoming, for us financially, just okay to invest in that, put a manager in charge and a buyer, and really, I guess, help customers in a very personal way with their houseplants.
The other thing we're focusing on is the cactus and the succulents, because we realize we live in an area where a lot of people travel. They do a lot of traveling. Well, you can put some cactus and succulents in and be gone for a month at a time, and they don't care.
Yeah, we are proof of that.
Yeah.
We have outdoor agaves in our house.
Yes, we do.
And it's been there for years. And they're beautiful, and they're living, and you just got to make sure you don't walk by them and get poked by the spines. But it looks
true.
neat.
It does.
To have that on a coffee table or something.
So yeah, we're definitely bringing in a lot more varieties, more types. But we're also, a big part of Waters in general is educating people. So if you haven't really done houseplants, or you think you have black thumbs, come in and talk to us. We can show you the plants that are so easy to grow.
That's true.
The ZZ plants, the mother-in-law tongues. I mean, you can virtually ignore those guys, and they're fine with that. They're actually better with that. If you've been gardening a long time and you want a challenge, we can show you some plants that are unique and challenging and fun to grow. So part of this is to educate people, and we certainly have a great staff that can help educate you and help you get what you want and what you need to be successful.
Our folks know stuff.
They know stuff.
That's for sure. They know stuff. So I would think, too, just a kind of a shout out, the Christmas cactus came in. We've had quite a number of folks want to know when they came. I posted an Instagram photo while they came off the truck, and people were already in. I mean, today, just getting a Christmas cactus. So that crop will run out. It's a seasonal crop.
Right.
When do the poinsettias, that first crop, that's
they
getting close.
They come in that week of Thanksgiving.
Okay, so another couple week. What is that?
21st, something like that. They'll be coming in, and we'll have like 200 poinsettias. And the other thing I would say, people will go, well, your prices on your houseplants are a little higher. I can go down to Home Depot and buy it for $6. Well, be aware of what you're getting.
Yeah, that's true. That's your statement.
Because quality is not the same across the board. There really is a difference in the health of the plant, diseases, insects. I mean, those things get on houseplants too. So, yeah, you may spend $1 or $2 more, but you're getting a much healthier plant. And we'll help you. If your plant starts to struggle, take a picture, bring it in. We can help you with that. Yeah. So there are advantages to buying.
There's definitely different qualities of plants. And people don't, pothos is pothos. They're all the same. No, that's not true at all. There's definitely different grades. And we're handpicking these for our store, our clients. You got professionals actually choosing the plants. Right. Then also I think houseplants, they're not... I still see like old poinsettias from 3 years ago. They're not made to be forever. I think we got to make the call going ugly. They're not made to live more than like 2, 3, 4 years. And then you got to go start over. They get bump up against the ceiling, or they just get mangy and thin. I think we need to rotate our houseplants a little more often to keep them looking really good. Thank you, Lisa. Houseplants here at Waters Garden Center. Come talk to Lisa and the crew. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our sizzling summer daisy.
This snow white daisy is a natural in the summer garden when tall white flowers are desired.
Highbrow enough to use in estate settings or amassed into formal beds surrounded by boxwood for under $12.
In entertainment areas, this sizzler literally leaps up under a full moon, easy to grow, and prefers planting during the monsoon.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love summer daisies love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our fragrant low sumac.
The cute foliage is fragrant when brushed against and utterly detestable to wildlife of all kinds.
A knee-high native that takes any abuse, loves wind, blistering hot sun, and rocky hillsides.
At $39, this hardy shrub is ideal for owners of investment and commercial rentals.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native sumac, they love to shop. We started out the show with the evergreens. Which ones really do well in the mountains of Arizona, and the shrubs specifically. So which shrub? We had mentioned Agnes, Katonah asters, Photinias, Nandinas. Then we went down to the medium-sized shrubs, junipers. They grow up about chest high or so, good 4 or 5 feet. They're hardy. We're surrounded by juniper forests throughout the mountains of Arizona. They do really, really well. We've got to get them credit. A lot of folks that have allergies to junipers, they don't want to plant junipers. But these small ones, we've bred the pollen out. That's just the male species of juniper causes the pollen, which causes the allergies. So if you only have females in your plant, in your yard, so you take a graft from a pretty female, you start cloning that same plant over and over. Now you've got a juniper variety that's hardy, tough, naturalizes, and doesn't have the pollen issues. Quite honestly, to these smaller, if it only gets up hip high, there's not enough pollen to bother with. You're surrounded by huge 15, 20-foot male junipers that are native. You're surrounded by a forest of them. And when they start having pollen, it floats and fills up entire valleys, not just your backyard. So I wouldn't worry so much. I think we need to give them more credit because there's some beautiful. I love old gold junipers. They're beautiful, easy to care for. Once you get up to size, I hardly bother with them. I never prune them. But it's a good choice. I'm not going to push that too much. Oregon grape or Mahonia is the other one. That's another native. It grows wild on the ridge lines here in the mountains. But there's a variety that grows up about chest high again. It's a great plant. There's one that grows chest high, hip high, and ankle high. But Oregon grape, it's got a beautiful yellow flower in the spring. It gets a nice holly-shaped leaf that's dense, it's thick, it's tough, doesn't dry out. It's really, if you're going to kill it, it'll be from overwatering. And then it's got this great color. It's one of those that can get this orangey red on top in full sun. Where it grows natively is in the shade, where it just stays green. But it's a great, every yard should have at least one because it's so tough for here. Again, if you want low maintenance, that's the one to go with, Oregon grape. Other ones that I put down here was Nandina again. Again, I mentioned that for the tall versions at the beginning of the show. Well, there's a short variety. I love Sienna Sunrise Nandina. It's a new variety out. It's got this beautiful orangey red glow out in the sun. It's beautiful, dense, thick, about chest high foliage. Another one is Moyer's Red Nandina. This one turns really intense red. The whole plant will turn red, not just the top. It's really amazing. And then in the spring, it will start to turn green. Those red leaves will turn back to green. It always has foliage on the plant and adapts really well, especially where you have a lot of javelina, a lot of pack rats, a lot of chipmunks, things where animals just want to strip it and eat it and claw it to death. Nandina, they don't like. It's got this white sappy sap to it that they just don't care for. It looks delicious, but they don't bother it, which is the kind of plants we want out there. Again, really tough, low care. Your real low-growing plants, evergreen though, we'll start with the most old-fashioned variety. A lot of the older neighborhoods have Hugo Pine. It's a pine tree, short-needled pine, maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches long. Great, really handsome, very, very good-looking, manageable type of specimen that goes up about hip high again. Maybe knee high. You could easily keep it down lower if you wanted. But the really old specimens grow up a little taller than that if they've just been let go. But Hugo Pine, again, we're surrounded by pine forest. So this pine tree does really well. We have a number of manzanita here at the garden center. So this is the native manzanita, red stems, evergreen leaves. We've got a real low growing one called Knick. It's ground cover, but evergreen. It looks like a manzanita, a little bit smaller leaf because it's a miniature, it's dwarfed. But Knick or bearberries, another name, goes by several names depending on what part of the country you're from, but it naturalizes really well. The bigger ones, they can get up head high, kind of hip high to chest high on average. They're real slow growing. So for them to be up head high would take, you'll be out of your house by the time it gets that big. But it's a great little evergreen and interesting, uniquely Arizonan. We've got several specimens, several varieties of that. I'm trying to introduce more varieties next year of manzanita specifically. So that's another one. One of my favorites for shorter evergreens, just because there's not many of them that will bloom for you very well. That's Indian Hawthorn. It's a short little, maybe knee-high type of evergreen, very rich green, very pretty. But in the spring, usually about March and April, maybe to Mother's Day, it's got a long bloom cycle. It'll bloom this beautiful pink flower, kind of light, kind of a blushy pink to bright pink. Depends on the variety. But it's low care, low water. Things leave it alone. It adapts well. Great evergreen. I grow that one in containers quite often because it's just this beautiful, formal, shapely. It has a form to it that's very, very pretty. But the flower is so fragrant, so pretty in the spring. But then it's evergreen as well. It's one of those plants that can really upgrade your yard on a patio next to the new furniture set you put out there. Put one in a beautiful pot, bloom in the spring and just go, wow, I'm glad I planted that. Another one, too, that we grow a lot of for ground cover, especially where rock lawns are. If you've got a rock lawn, it's too much. You need to soften that edge. It's too formal. Yet we have informal gardens, more free-flowing type of landscape designs. Sometimes we need to break up add something to the edges of that rock lawn, but we don't want to be a slave to it. There you use two things, and they're companion plants with each other. Usually I'll design these in where I've got big blocks, 3 to 5 of them in a section of Katonah Aster, a creeping Katonah Aster. It's coralberry, Eichholz. There's 3 or 4 varieties of this evergreen ground cover that just creeps along, goes through boulders, in between rocks, over stem walls and raised beds. It's a great one for that. Long tendrils flow out, but it's a dark green to almost blue, white flowers in the spring, red berries in the summer and fall. It's just got a lot going on for it. The companion to that Katonah Aster would be it'd be juniper. Of all things, there's creeping ground cover juniper. Some of them, like blue rug juniper, it's like a rug. It's very pretty. But I love to plant them next to each other where I get this wild interaction between the juniper and the Katonah Aster. Just look really, really good. And this is the time of year you want to plant them, now through the end of the year, because you can see where to put them physically easier. You can conceptually design it in the landscape because you can see where the open spaces are, and in your landscape, and you're perfectly fine to plant now. The ground isn't going to freeze even at the highest elevations until the new year. From Groom Creek, Highland Pines, down, you're not going to freeze. I mean, just Prescott Valley's not going to freeze. Paulden, you all are kind of freakish out there. You get the hottest of the hot and the coldest of the cold because all that cold air from Ashford kind of flows down on top of you. But if you get towards Chino Valley, you're not going to freeze. It's perfectly fine to plant. If you're planting an evergreen hedgerow, let's say your neighbor, like I just helped a gentleman, a good friend of the nursery, his neighbor's lights are always coming on and shining in his front yard. It bothered him. So come on, let's line this out for you. So we got him some taller, upright, what do we do? Junipers and arborvitaes or something. And we just blocked that out immediately. Went out to plant it for him, put it in the ground. All is good and well and happy as can be. We can help you design that, and it's okay to plant now. What you'll need to do is we just said, hey, take a hose and water it a couple times a month. That's all you need to do to keep it going. We put the fertilizer, we put the mulch and the stakes and the root and grow, and we got it all set. All it needs is a little bit of care. It can't go right through the winter by itself. It's going to need its gardener to go out with a hose and just water it sporadically. I mean, deep soak, but don't do it very often now through March. And by next April, well, really by the end of March, things are taking off with new growth. That's the beauty of a fall planting as opposed to a winter or spring planting. You get all that flush of new growth in the spring. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week in our yellow Echinacea.
We crossed a coneflower and black-eyed Susan and created an impressive new bloomer.
Free-flowering daisy-like blooms are cheery and loves full sun.
The 3-inch flowers are bigger, showier, and longer lasting through the heat of summer at just $14 while they last.
You'll only find them at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love new summer bloomers, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week in our Goldfinger Potentia.
A versatile knee-high shrub that charms with its cheery buttercup gold flowers.
A truly hardy perennial that loves to bloom in the hot, dry spaces in the garden.
With long fingers of fine foliage, it's an attention-getting foundation plant.
Deer, javelina, rabbits, no problems. They don't like the flowers or the foliage, and just $14.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love cheery summer shrubs, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
I tell you, I had something really interesting happen this week. I had some grubs. I had some carpenter ants and some grubs. So I put it down a bait that would go through the soil and eliminate those insects. And so I had 2 rental houses. They're side by side each other. Beautiful landscapes. I mean, people buy them because they're in the country. They're in the city, but it's got a country feel with beautiful gardens around them. They rent instantaneously because they're so desirable, and they don't come up very often for rent. So we take care of them. I personally go take care of these gardens. A lot of them are my test gardens. I test new plants out. There's javelina pressure like crazy right there. It's exposed to everything, out in full sun. There's some native plants. I've got some ornamental plants. It's a true test garden, and I test the limits, see where they are. That way I can give better advice to folks when they come and buy a plant. They go, well, where would it grow? Well, let me tell you where it actually grows and whether that will really work for you or you'll be disappointed. And so this is how I do it. Well, anyway, I had grubs, little white worms that were eating the roots off of some of the plants. Had some cutworms, just some things. I was going to clean up the bed. I fertilized it, and I put a grub killer down. Super interesting. What happened, it must have caused the grubs to come up to the surface, going, this This soil is irritating me. I'm going to make a run for it. It must have come up. And the javelina came in and ate they just tore the gardens up. I've never seen this. They rummage through all the time. They don't tear it up like this. I don't know what the actual cause was, why the whole herd went crazy, but I think it's because I put the grub killer down and it got all the insects active where they were trying to move around, and before they died, before that killer did its job, the javelina came in and finished them off. Well, I did dig around, and there are no more grubs. They're all gone. I couldn't find one body. But I've never seen that reaction, the symbiotic thing between a bug killer. This is one it's a grain you spread on the ground, water it in, gets rid of your problems, which is what I wanted. I wanted a clean garden. I want truly a neutral test, not pressure from insects or even javelina. So I put some things back in the ground, propped them back up, and they're all fine. Corrected the irrigation because they tore up everything. And they haven't been back since. So I'm almost positive it was that. It was the insects attracted the javelina, which caused all the issues. That's one. If you're planting right now, go ahead and plant. Good time to plant. Great time for evergreens, especially spruce and pine and junipers. Great time for privacy hedges. But if you're planting and as you dig that hole, you see something in there, some insects, don't dismiss that. Don't go, it's okay. It's not okay. Those things are there to eat the roots off your new plant. And you put this healthy new thing in, you wonder why it struggled next spring. Well, it's our planting crew. We automatically have grub killer on the truck. It's been so bad this year. We just keep it on the truck. It's part free. It's part of the service. If we see an issue, we just take care of it because we don't want to come back and have you have to deal with the plant struggling. Why is it struggling? I don't know. We just deal with it automatically. We have drainage issues. We automatically just take the jackhammer and fracture that rock layer underneath up just so we don't want an issue. We want success for our customers, for those that we plant for. If you're planting yourself, look for that and take those extra precautions. Super easy. It's called grub killer. You spread it around, water it in, all your problems are gone for like multiple months in the future. I mean, it's like once and done kind of thing. It's a great way to go, but don't dismiss it if you're planting and see that kind of stuff. New pansies, you see it, take care of it while it's top of mind. Come in and see us right away. We can knock it right out for you. Ken and Lisa Lane, we are here at Waters Garden Center throughout the week. You can come in and say hi, say you heard the show. We'd love it.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Gardening has always come natural to me. Green thumbs, they just run in the family. So when the Family Garden Center was offered to Lisa and I, we jumped on the opportunity. I've always loved coming to the nursery, being surrounded by all the beauty, helping the backyard gardener and passing on some of that natural magic that happens so easily for me. We aren't just selling plants, we're offering garden success. My name is Ken Lane, owner, and you'll feel the magic here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.